Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to day 3 of the Power BI Bootcamp. How is everyone feeling? I hope we all had a great week and a productive one as well. And I also hope that we've all caught up with the recordings from the last class. So even if you're just joining, I hope you've checked the YouTube channel for past classes and you've also, caught up with all the class. I sent a mail earlier on today that contains like all the links, so nobody misses out on anything. For those that still have issue joining the Slack, we're working on something in the background for you guys, but I would announce that. I'll talk about that later on. But welcome to the Power BI Bootcamp. This weekend is a whole lot, and before this live class, I've spent the past 1 hour reading your feedbacks, comments, and I really, really appreciate every one of them. If you've not dropped your feedback, if you have anything at all you want to say to me, that's a very good way of sharing that. So I want to appreciate every one of you that have taken time to fill that feedback for me. It means a lot. I mean, there are a lot of things there that I might not be able to do, but I've tried to consider some of them. And part of, I think one of the major things is, my pace being still very fast or something. So maybe I'll try to see how I can reduce that. Some persons mentioned about how they would have preferred, the sessions or the live sessions were shorter, and then we had a long, more time for the boot camp. I don't know how we'll be able to do that. I would see how I don't stretch. If we are on the 2 hour mark and I feel like everyone is tired and people want to leave, maybe we can stop. But like I mentioned, we have a lot to cover up, and I cannot even tell you that even 3 weekends or 1 month is enough to cover the entire Power BI curriculum. But at least, because I want you guys to know the basics and everything you need to know to be able to build a project, to build your own portfolio. That is why some of the things that you see now, or um some of the things that we just have to manage, let me use that word, we just have to manage, right? And like I mentioned earlier on, if there's anything you miss out, even when I'm teaching, you can always go back to the recordings. Okay. And if you're watching the recording, I'll be linking every of the information, every slide, anything that you need to know for about this bootcamp in the description once the live is over. Before we begin today's class, I just want to touching on everyone, just a little bit of pulse check. How are we feeling? Are we excited for today's class? How was your week? Maybe you just want to share something briefly about how your week went. What is something you're looking for? Have you ever heard of data analysis expression before? What's your opinion about it? And very importantly, from the beginners that have never done anything tech related or data analysis related or Power BI, I just want to see your comments, right? How has it been so far? Have you been able to follow through? You think it's beginner friendly enough? I just want to do a little bit of pulse check, okay? So I'll be waiting to see your comments. Yes, the class is recorded. Also, somebody said I should be pausing in between to take questions. I'll see how that will work today. But if it slows us down a lot, I'll probably not be able to do that, right? But I mean, we can still see what we can do. But before we go into today's class, we're doing two things today. We're going to be doing data visualization, because we started that last week. Maybe I would run through the slides again or do a summary before we go into data analysis expression. So those are the two things I want us to look at today, because majorly this weekend I want us to cover data visualization. I want us to cover data analysis expression, and probably look at building our first dashboard and even publishing that on Power BI service, right? I think by the end of this weekend, you would have a what do I call it? A success story, something to take out to say this is what you have achieved. I mean, a lot of people have already achieved something. You learned something that you did not even know before. Some persons, I was reading some feedback. Some persons said they've taken Power BI boot camps, but it wasn't as in depth and it wasn't as detailed as this. And I mean, I really, really appreciate those comments, right? I said it at the beginning that I'm not going to be gatekeeping everything, and I'm going to be sharing everything, everything that I know, right? So we're going to go deep into, I'll talk about data visualization briefly, and I'm going to talk about before moving to data analysis expression. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of comments. People are saying yes, it's beginner friendly. So I'm so glad to hear this. It's beginner friendly enough after watching the recorded videos. Let's do questions at the end of the session. I'm understanding it. Okay, okay, Joy, yeah, I would actually do that. I would do the getting data from the folder. uh all right. Thank you very much, everyone, for the comments. I really appreciate them. But by the way, before we start, right? Before we start, please, if you know anybody that is not here, please kindly nudge them to join the class. We're only 200. I mean, I think we used to be up to 500 on the call, even though other persons used to watch the recording. But let's just get other persons to also join the class so that we can kickstart, right? I'm going to just do something. Let me do a brief recap of what we've been talking about since the beginning of this bootcamp, right? We've been talking about Power BI, and we've walked through. I've taught you about, like, or I mentioned that there are several skills that you need to know to understand Power BI, and some of those skills we've started looking at them, like your data preparation, your data modeling. Um, uh, Today we're going to look at. I did an introduction to data visualization last weekend, but today we're going to go deep into data visualization. We'll look at some of the popular visuals we have in Power BI, and then we'll look at data analysis expression, right? These are some of the skills that you need to know to be able to say you know Power BI, and you can beat your chest to say you know 2/4 of those skills. I mean, by the time we touch data visualization and data analysis expression, you're already on 4/4. It's remaining 4/5. It's remaining like the last thing, right? Which you talked about, business knowledge. So well, we're going to actually this is okay. I've been getting a lot of comments as well about the slides. I'm sorry, but I won't be able to make the slide downloadable for copyright issues. Please just bear with me. I mean, it's there, you can see every word there and everything, but I don't think I'll be able to make that downloadable, right, for the slides I'm giving you. You can view it, so please just bear with me um on that particular email. Okay, please give me a second. I think there's a notification on Slack to say that class has started, because I know we sent messages to the YouTube, and we send messages. There's a notification on class to says there's a notification on Slack to say the class have started. So I just feel like people, and I sent a reminder early this morning about today's class. So I sent the mail this morning, although not a lot of persons have opened that particular class. So I'm sure people will join in along the line. So not a lot of persons actually opened their mail. All right. Somebody's asking how long will the boot camp last? God's willing, we're going to wrap up this weekend. But what I have in mind is this, because I've realized that, in fact, what I have in mind to teach you people these 2 days is not enough for it. So I might have another session after this one to do like a full end to end, like where we start from afresh. Don't worry, I'll talk about it later. But for now, let's go into the order of the day. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we can just start the session. Remember last week I talked about visualization, right? Data visualization. Before I start, I want to be sure that we are all on the same page and everyone is together. If we're all together, please just let me know that we can begin. After the boot camp, yes, all resources are going to be available. I mentioned this, it's lifetime. You would have access to all the recordings, all the resources. It's all there for you to see it. And consequently, I'll share this by tomorrow so we can start. I'm seeing a lot of good comments, so we can start. First thing first, I want to say something, right? For those that probably, you know, when we're doing our getting data from folder class, right? I just want to walk through that process in case of people that don't understand like how that stuff works. So I'm just going to just do a new, because somebody asked a question. I said I was going to do like a walkthrough in case class. So I just show that before I come back to data visualization. If you remember, right, what we did was, first of all, we created a folder and we assumed that that folder, which is this particular project club yearly, right, which is this particular folder that it houses our data, right? 2014 and 2015. That is that's what we assume that we've collected, right? And then what did we do? On our Power BI, we clicked on Get Data. Okay, we went to More and we tried to select data from a folder. So we selected the folder option. And then when we selected the folder option, we did Connect. Okay, we did Connect. Now, after clicking on Connect, what did we do? We clicked on Browse to find where the location of that particular folder is. And I told you that mine is on my PC, right? On my desktop. So I just clicked on my desktop. And then what did I do? I scrolled down to where I have that yearly data folder, which is this folder. And I just selected that folder and I clicked on OK. And then the next thing I did was to click on OK. So what did I do next? I went to transform data. Number one rule I taught us was that we should never click on load, right? We should click on transform data. And then when we click on transform data, we'll see this icon here that looks different from every other icon on these particular columns. So we're going to click on this that says combine files. And if I click on combine files, it opens up a navigation pane, right? That shows me the first sheet in my data. So if I click on this sheet, it's going to give me a preview of my data to show me that this is what my data actually looks like. Okay. And then the next thing I want to do is to click on OK. And automatically it gets loaded into my Power Query editor and both of them combined. Now, sometimes when you load data, you would not see your Power Query editor. You have to come here to where you have this icon, the Power BI icon, and you would see two new options, the Power BI desktop and the Power Query editor. So you can just click on the Power Query editor and you would see your file. I hope that person that asked that question can understand. Now, in case you add another file and you come here and you don't see that new file, just come here that says refresh preview and click on refresh. And it's going to add that new data into your Power BI. For example, let me give you an instance. In my folder currently, I only have 2014 and 2016. All right. So I only have 2014 and 2016. Now, if I want to make sure that 2014 and 2015 rather, let me assume that I've collected 2016 data. So I would go to my my Superstore, where I have my resources, where I have that particular file here. And if I copy 2016 and paste it in my folder, so I'll copy 2016 and paste it in my folder. I'm assuming I've gotten 2016, right? So now if I come here on here, if I refresh, so if I click like this, I'll probably only see 2014. But if I click refresh preview and I click on this and I do load more, I would see 2015 and 2016. Okay, so that is how to actually load data into your Power BI from a folder. I'm just going to close this because I don't have any business with it. I would continue from where we stop. I hope that person that had that question about getting data from a folder now understands it. The class is recorded. For those that are asking, the class is recorded and you would find it immediately after the live ends. You would see it on this YouTube channel. So if you are not subscribed, Please, if at this point you are not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please, I'm begging you, please, kindly, that is the only thing you can do to pay me. Kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. All right, let's continue and let's talk about data visualization. And before we move on, this is my favorite part of analytics part. Sometimes you go to interview and they ask you that in the data analytics process, what's your favorite part, or what part do you actually enjoy doing? Do you know why I like visualization? Nobody will see your data cleaning, nobody will see your data modeling, but you see your data visualization. That is what will tell the story and also show people the hard work that has gone into whatever you have done in the back end. So your data visualization is like the front end facing part of what you're doing as a data analyst. So we are working on, we're still working on that same data set we use. Remember the Superstore data set that we did fact and dimension table for? Look at it, right? Customer location, that is what we are working on. Now, if I come here, probably you would only still see, if I go to my other dimension that has those dates, because I've not refreshed on here, we'll probably still see only 2014 and 2015. You can see the last thing you would see here is 2015, right? Because I've not clicked on refresh. So that new 2016 data that I added in that folder has not shown. So how do I make sure that that data actually shows? I would come here, that's under my home tab. You're going to see refresh. Under my home tab, you would see refresh. And if I click on refresh, automatically, if my all the tables in my data start refreshing, and then it's going to add 2014, 2015, and even 2016. So if I come to that my table view again and click on the drop down and I just scroll all the way down, you can see I now have 2016 here, right? You can see, imagine I add a full report here, it gets updated. We'll see that we still have one more data, 2017. So we'll see what happens when we add 2017 after we've built the report. If you can't see anything, please just try to refresh it might be your internet. Just try to refresh your network. Please, let's confirm that everybody can see my screen and we are good to go. So if you are together, let me just, you can drop your favorite emoji in the chat and then we can just start data visualization. I already mentioned what data visualization is last week, right? It's just, you turning all those numbers, that your spreadsheet, in the form of visuals and graphs, representing it with visuals and graphs in a way that tells the story about your data, right? And it helps people, like it helps you communicate properly. Because if I show you that lab spreadsheet and I tell you to pinpoint the month you made the most sale, you'll just be all over the place and trying to do guesswork. But if you see a line chart, you can easily pinpoint what month the most sale was made. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to throw in like a bunch of, we're going to be asking random questions and we're going to try to do this and we're going to try to do this. And the reason why I'm doing this before we start talking about data analysis expression is because so that you will understand. Because somebody will ask me that, Shebi, I can drag and drop my data. Why do I need to still write DAX? I would show you how DAX makes your analysis or your reports even more interesting. And also I like to teach people visualization before DAX, because sometimes when we write DAX we have to visualize some of those things. So if you don't understand these visuals, you would not understand what we are dragging or what we are selecting. Remember when we talked about the panes you have in Power BI, right? And I talked about your visualizations page. The visualization pane houses all the visuals that Power BI makes available to you, okay? And if maybe, for example, the visual you're looking for is not here, you can come here and click on to get more visuals, but you will need to be signed into the Power BI desktop. I said I was going to share a video. I would share that before the end of this weekend on how you can get like a login or get access to you get access to like a sign-in platform on Power BI. All right, so first thing first, and then we're going to be looking at some of the most popular visuals that you have in the popular visuals that you have in Power. So I'm just going to be touching on some of them that you would not miss. You would always have to use them, right? Let's start with the most popular one. your card visuals, which is used to show KPIs. And there are several variations that you will find in your Power BI. You have this card visual, and then this new card visual that was released, I think 2023, either 2023 or 2024. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's, you can see it's even represented as card new, right? So your card visual, for example, if I select this one, it's, so this is what it looks like. I think, let me expand this a bit since we're working. I'm trying to say, okay, no. So this is what your card visual is represented with 1, 2, 3. Depending on how your own is racked, you'll probably see it on the 4th row. Yeah, 4th or 5th. That's why I said depending on how your this thing is. So this is what your card visual looks like. Now, how do you actually visualize something? For example, let's say I want to find the total sales that I've made in this my superstore, right? I can easily go ahead and to click on the sales column. You can see what I have sales here, right? Now, all these signs that you see in front, it shows that this is a column that can be aggregated. So if I click on sales, yeah, it would show me the total sales. I'm going to try to increase my screen a bit so we can see what I'm doing, but I think this is visible enough. So if you just select the sales, it will show you the total sales. Are we following? Are we following? Now, the difference between this old card visual and the new card visual is just that the new card visual, you can do a lot of different formatting or add different things. For example, you want to visualize month on month just using one particular visual and not doing using text box or shapes. You can actually use the card visual to do all of that, right? I will let you even maybe explore those things around, but I'll teach you what some of these visualizations are all about. So this is how you bring visuals or bring an item on a visual. Now, because we are calculating sum of sales, what do we need to do? We want to make sure that this sum of sales, it is, because sales is a currency, right? It's an amount. So it is very important. Unit of measurement is very important when you are doing visualizations in when you are doing data visualization in any tool at all. Unit of measurement, this is a common mistake that people make, right? You bring, if you're telling me 1.56 million, are you telling me is in naira or is in dollars? It's very important. And remember, our data is like the superstore of a US sales data of a US store company, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to add currency. How do we add currency to this? You want to go to where that column is, which is this sales, right? Tap on it. So I'm not saying check the box. I'm saying tap on the sales column. I mean tap like this. You can see how I this thing. I want to see if I can increase the size of my cursor a bit so that I want to be sure that I've changed the size, but I don't know if you guys can see clearly, but I want to be sure. I mean, it's so large on here, but it feels like I'm watching on my second screen and it feels like it's tiny. So let me reduce the speed also a bit. And then I'll just try to adjust the size to see if it's also more bigger. I don't think there's any change occurring, but good. All right, so the next thing, I said tap on it, right? Once you tap on it, these column tools become active. So let me do something here. I've tapped out, right? You can see column tools is not active here, but by the time I tap on this sales here, my column 2 become active. Okay, my column 2 become active, and then what's the next thing I would see? I would see this formatting option here. Now, because this particular visual, I want to format it as dollar, I will come here and I will pick the dollar currency sign, and automatically it gets added. Now, there's also another rule in visualization, and it's important you know, using clear and descriptive title, right? And whenever you want to format anything on your visual, you have to make sure that visual is selected. For example, this shows that it is selected. But once I put my cursor outside like this, I've unselected it, right? But when I select and put my cursor on it, I've selected it. So now I can perform every formatting I want to do here. And where do you do this formatting? You would come on here to your visual pane. You would see this sign that says format your visual. I hope we are following. Click on it, And then what you want to do is, we want to do what? Change the title. Whenever you are visualizing, always use clear descriptive title. Fine. It is you. Sum of sales is, yes, we know it's sum of sales, but why are you telling people, like, sum of sales sounds so mathematical? But if you tell somebody that your total sales is, but when you say your sum of sales is, like, do you see how that sounds? Of the time we're going to be working with most of the time we're going to be working with stakeholders, right? And what do you want to do? You want to make sure that they can, like, your title is clear and descriptive. So what are you going to do? You come over here to your category label, to your category label, right? And turn this one off, because this is what is called category label. This is your call out, this is your call out value. So you can turn this off and then come and give your report a title. Okay, come and give your report a title. So if I turn this on your general, you will see title, and then you can call this total sales. Now you can see the total sales here, but most times you want to also change your font. If you want to change the fonts, you will see fonts over here, and you can rename this to any font you want. In my own case, one of my preferred fonts is Shego UI, and I will leave that as Shego UI. Because I don't want it tilted to the corner too, I can also scroll down, still under my title, where I see horizontal alignment. I will make the horizontal alignment to be center. I don't know if you get what I've just done. So I've just formatted this report, the title of this report. Now, if you want to keep it on the bottom, and maybe you don't want to turn off that category label, you can come here. That's on your visuals where you have sum of sales. You can change it from here to total sales, and that will change. Okay. Also, if you want to format your numbers, like your call out value, since we're already using Sego UI here, it's best to use Sego UI throughout so that our visualization is uniform. So I'm going to change the font also for my call out value to Shego UI. And that way I've been able to format this card visual. If you want to increase the font, you can also increase the font. You have that here. I don't know if this is self-explanatory, but I hope we already understand. We understand what this is, or what I've been able to do over here. All right. So I'll move to the next thing. Excuse me. Now that we have calculated total sales, let's say we want to look at something else now. Maybe we want to find the total profits. We have a profits column here. I can either, copy this one that I've done here, do Control C and V, or, start the same process all over again. But because I want to keep the formatting I've done here, I can either just go ahead and copy and paste, click on X to remove it, and then just come here and do profits. Now, instead of profits, remember we need our currency sign, right? So we have to select and go and do what? Click currency. Somebody might say, what if it's not dollar? What if it's another currency? Just click on the drop down here and you will see different currency, and you can pick the currency of your choice. The next thing I want us to look at is, if you don't want this million to appear, maybe you want the exact number, right? You want the exact number. You can come to your format, okay? Go to general. Sorry, come to your format, under visual, under your call out value, because this is your call out value. Now, anytime you want to edit anything that is this number, it's call out value. Anytime you want to edit anything that is this thing, it can be your category label or your general that you're going to. So we can go ahead and on this, because I want to change this from million to show the exact number, this place that says display units, if I click on the drop down, you can see that you can display however you want. So in this case, I want to do none, and it's going to show me the exact number. Now, I don't want this long decimal numbers. Maybe I just want 2 decimal numbers, or no, even I don't even want to see decimal number at all. You see this place where you have value decimal places? Remember, we are still under call out value. What you are going to do is just click on 0 and automatically it would remove it. You can see I only have the numbers showing, but for the sake of what we're trying to do, I'm going to leave it as million and I'll put 2 decimal places. I hope this is clear and easy to follow. So something else I want to teach on this place is, let's even look at how to probably separate this from this. There are different ways you can do that. If I go to my general, for example, I can add effects, right? I can add effects, and I'll just go, I'll go to effects, scroll down to where I have visual border, and I'll turn it on. And automatically, you can see there's a black border around this now. Now, if I want to apply that same changes that I've done here, this border to this thing, and I don't want to click on this one to start doing, I can easily click here, click this one, see where you see this format painter. If you click on this format painter and you paste it here, automatically all the changes here you can see this one is showing as million now because this is formatted as million. So I can easily go back, right, to my call out value, go to where the display unit is millions and just change thousands. So anytime you do format painter, you're just saying all the settings applied here should be applied on this place. I hope this is clear enough, like we can understand what I'm doing. Somebody is asking, how can we calculate it? We are going to get there. That's when we'll start talking about DAX. We're looking at data visual, and I'm just showing you how to, do the basic data visualization. It's important you understand this. I get that we have intermediates on here. We have even experts on this call, but please, for the sake of the beginners, I would advise that we just follow through with what I'm doing currently, okay? So the next thing we're going to try to do, let's say we want to find out the quantity sold. Same thing, or we can start from afresh as well, right? Just click on a chart, a card visual. Trust me, the knowledge that you're going to gain from here and all this, and even if you have your own personal business, this is something you can plug your own data and play with it as well, okay? That's why I say the knowledge you will get from here, if you practice very well, you can even use it to get side gigs that you can help people analyze their data. So please, let's just, follow through and try to learn something. Now, we want to find out quantity sold. Don't worry, I'm just bringing in like bunch of vision because I know people have a lot of questions. What if somebody give me data? How do I know this is what I'm going to select? How do I know there are a lot of questions, but the most important, let's even learn the basics. We're going to have a session that we call putting it all together. That's everything we have learned. Okay, how do you actually use it in real world case scenario? Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now is we want to find out quantity sold. We're trying to find out the quantity sold. So the same thing, right? I've selected this card, and there's something you should know about your visuals. You can always, by the time you're dragging, there's this red line that comes in to help you align your visual, and alignment is very important. Layout is very important, and I'll talk about this when we start I'll talk about this when we start doing proper report design, right? When we start talking about report design. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do quantity sold, right? And quantity sold, I can also go ahead and rename this, right? Maybe what do I want to call it? I want to call this quantity sold. So remember to go to your format, go to general, go to title, and turn this on, and then we can call this quantity sold. Remember, this one we still have to rename as well. This thing is not total sales again, it's total profit. So when you copy and paste, you always want to make sure that you are renaming to what it's supposed to be. Okay, quantity sold, I'll change the font to reflect what I have here, or I can just do format paint and paste it here. So let me see, format paint, and I'll paste it here, and automatically it applies in this particular place as well. So I'll do one last thing before we move to another kind of visual. So if I do Ctrl+C and V, let's say I want to find the total, let me delete this. I want to find out the total customers that we've had, right? If I go ahead and click customer ID, it's going to show me the ID of, remember, total customers is like the count of all my unique customers, right? I want to find out total number of all my unique customers. So it'll be the count of my customer ID, because that is a unique identifier for each customer. So if I do customer ID, it's showing me the name of the first customer ID. Look at it here. It's saying first customer ID, but that's not what I want to see. What I want to see is my total customers, total unique customers. And what you're going to do is click on the drop down and you're going to see count distinct. Count and count distinct. Now, because I'm using from my sales table that contains duplicates, what I'm going to select is count distinct. I already explained what the meaning of distinct is. The meaning of distinct is it will count, even if you have 10 of those, it will count it as one, because I want to see my unique number, the unique number of customers, right? So what we're going to use is count distinct. And because I want to see, I don't want, this does not make sense, saying 0.78K. Instead, I'll go to my format, I'll go to my call out value, and where it says in thousands, I might just put it as none. And then because of the 782, I don't want to see this 00. I'll just remove the decimal place and I'll put it as 0. I think I saw a comment where somebody says I should use the new card. So what we're going to do is I would click on the new card now, and we can maybe try to do the same thing we did for total sales on here. So I'll just click on total sales, and you can see it's just basically the same thing, right? I'll click here, do format paint, and I'll just apply that on here. Okay, so this will not work because there are two different visuals. It's still supposed to work, even though. So we can go ahead and just format this just to look like this. You can see there are different other this thing. So say, for example, I want to see my sales, and I also want to see probably profit under sales. I can add what I call a reference label, but I want us to look at this when we are doing after writing that. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on the new card visual for now, but we'll look at it when we start writing that, so you understand how you can use that, right? Now let's look at another popular visualization. So card is one very popular visualization that you would use in Power BI. Let's look at another very popular one, which is your bar chart, right? And I said it comes in several variations. If you look here, this one says stacked bar chart, right? This one says clustered bar chart. This is 100% stacked bar chart, and this is your clustered bar chart. So it's just the difference between them is one would put it side by side, the other one will put it like on top, will stack it on top. So in this case, I want to just pick this clustered column chart. That is what I want to use. And let's say we want to see, and what do we use bar chart for? I explained it last week, right? You use your bar chart to show categorical data. Are we following? Are we together? We use our this thing to show categorical data. For the person that said I should come again on the count distinct, let me explain what I've done here. When you click on your card visual, right? This is my card visual here, and you select customer ID. What happens? It shows the first customer ID. But what we want to see is a count. So you have to click on the drop down, and then what are you going to do? Just select count distinct, because you want to see the distinct. If I was getting the customer ID from my customer dimension table, because that one doesn't contain duplicates. Say, for example, I uncheck this and I go to customer dimension. What I would do here, instead of count distinct, I would do count. So count and count distinct will probably even give me the same value, because this one does not have any duplicates. I hope that is clear. So if you're looking for any resources that we're using, it's pinned on the profile, it's pinned on the charts, any of the resources that we're using. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, if you're getting different values, it might be that you have not updated. Remember, I have 3 tables in my folder, or 3 years in my folder. That is why you are getting different values. So you might get different values if you don't have the amount of data that I have. Okay, now for those that are asking questions like, how can we do this using your data sets, total sales, net sales? And that is why I say we have a lot of professionals on this call. We'll get to some of these things we'll get there when we start talking about DAX. I want us to be patient and follow through, right? You would not even, you would, if we are patient, some of the questions we ask, we'll probably not need to ask them because I would have touched it. But we have to start, we have a lot of beginners, so we have to start from the very basic to advanced. Okay, so let's continue. Like I mentioned, we're talking about bar charts now, and I said bar charts is used to show what? Categorical data. So now I want to see probably my the number of sales I'm making per category, right? Per product category. What category is actually generating the most sales for my business? So I will go to my product dimension table that has that category, and I will click on category. Okay, the next thing I will do is I will go to my sales, and I will do what? And I will check the box. Now this is one way, right? I can still uncheck this, and I will show you something else. If you notice, when we bring a visual, you are seeing something called x-axis, y-axis, legend, and the likes. Now, what is your x-axis? Depending on how your data or the kind of visual you're using, your x-axis is on here. That is horizontal. Your y-axis is vertical. If you did like secondary school maths, you would remember this, right? Your y-axis is vertical, your x-axis is vertical. So by the time we can also, you know what, drag, and most times you want to drag your numerical value to the y-axis. If you are using your chart, I call this a vertical bar chart. But if you're using an horizontal bar chart, your values will probably be in the in the x-axis. Sorry. So I can drag this to my y-axis, which is my sales, and I would also drag my category to my y-axis. So you can either drag or you can just check the box. Is this clear? So now if you look at, we now have like a visual here that shows sales by sum of sales by category. And what did I say? It's better to just leave this as what? Total sales by category. You know, not to use something that is explanatory enough for your audience, right? Another thing you will notice on this visual is very cluttered, right? I'm trying to see how I can increase. I hope we can see. I want to see if I can increase this a little bit more. Let me close this one first. Good. I would reduce it a bit. I hope we can see my screen clear enough. I really hope so. Okay. So now if you look at this chart, it's somewhat cluttered. Let me open my visualization because I'll be doing formatting. It's somewhat cluttered. So we need to take out so many things on here. First of all, this our title is already telling us that this is total sales by category. So we don't need this name here again. We don't need this thing. It just makes our visual look too cluttered. So what we're going to do is I will come here, right? I will go to my general. So to my visual, right? On my visual, what are you seeing here? Now, remember, I said this is your x-axis. This is your y-axis. So anything you want to format on this place, you will go to x-axis. Anything you want to format on this place, you go to y-axis. So let's start with x-axis. So if I go to my x-axis, what this thing is called, what you're seeing here is your x title label. That is what this is. So your x title. So just go to where you have title under your x-axis and turn it off. Immediately it takes that out. Okay. Same thing as this one. We'll go to y label, right? That's our y-axis, and we'll turn off our y-axis title. So I'll go to y-axis, click on the drop down, and I'll do what? Turn the title. Am I too fast? Am I too fast? So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to rename this now and call it. So I'll go to my general title, and I'll call this what? Total sales by category. So total sales by category. And then what I want to do on here is I want to make sure that my font size is uniform to what I'm using. So remember, we're using Shego UI, right? So I'll just change that to Shego UI. So the next thing I'm going to do here, and if you look at this, we are seeing 0.0 million, 0.05 million. Also, I cannot particularly, okay, I know that technology is somewhere here, but how will I know the exact amount technology is making? That's why we call, there's something called data labels, and that is why data labels are important. So whenever you are visualizing your bar charts, always make use of data labels. Very important. So I'm teaching you visualization principles here, using clear descriptive title. Now I've mentioned something else, using the use of data labels. So we're going to go scroll all the way down, and then what am I going to do? I will go to where I have, so under my visual, right, I will scroll all the way down to where I have these data labels. You see it here. You can just toggle that button on. Okay, so we can just toggle that button on. And then what are we going to do? Click on the drop down, scroll all the way down to where you have value, right? Because you can see now we have something on top. This thing does not make sense because somebody might read it wrongly. That's another visualization principle. Whenever you have something like this that is 0.56 million, you know that this is in thousands, because if I see 0.56 million, if I don't look very well, I might think it's 56 million. So you want to make sure that these numbers are formatted properly. So where you have that value under your data labels, just go and change it from millions to thousands. So display units, just like how we had when we're doing call out values. And you can see we now have this as what? As numbers, right? Okay, so if you want, you can maybe remove the decimal places or anyhow. Now that we have these numbers on here, there's no need for this thing again. It's useless there. It just makes our visual look cluttered. You want to try to declutter your visual as much as possible. These grid lines, we don't want to see it at all. It makes everything look cluttered. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back up. Okay, go back up, and you see, remember I said what? If you want to format anything here, where are you going to go to? The y-axis. So you are going to turn off the y-axis value, and automatically once you turn that off, the grid line goes with it. So you now have a clear visual that shows you what? The total sales by category. This is how to format your bar charts. As simple as ABC, like very clear, straightforward, and all these things by just by dragging and drop. Your font size is dependent on when we start talking about report design, maybe we'll start talking about all these things. Okay, for the person asking about font size, there's no one or standard font size for how this thing should look like. Remember, because in all these ones I put a border, I'll just go ahead and put a border. Most times I'm not a fan of like border. What I would rather do, right, is maybe remove the background, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I would talk about that one when we are doing report design, because it's a full class on its own, and we'll look at that probably by tomorrow. Okay, so what we're going to do on here now is, on this particular chart that I've done, the total sales by category, I can go ahead and put border, since I'm already using border across my data. And where will I put border? If I go to general, right, and I go to effects, under effects I will see visual border, and I'll click on, or I'll turn that on, and I'll have that visual border here. That is how you create like your own you format your bar charts. So I can go ahead and do let's create another bar chart. Maybe I want to see like the cities where I'm making the most sale, for example. I can do Ctrl+C and V, right? Because city is also a categorical data. I mean, we can use the map visual, but I don't want to I don't want to do that, because I don't think, let me see how that data looks like. I'm just creating anything randomly. So it's not like maybe I had something in mind that I wanted us to look at. Country. Let's use a bar chart for the meantime. Let's use a bar chart. And we'll use a bar chart to show, let's say we want to see, and there's a reason why I want to use a bar chart, because I want to show something. Now, if I go ahead and I'll delete this, and I will put my cities. Where's my city? I have that in my location dimension table, and I click on city, and I click on sales. and I click on sales. Now I want us to look at something here. Can we see what is going on here? We cannot even read our titles. Anybody that wants to read this would have to probably turn their laptop upside down to be able to read this. And there are many cases and scenarios. I see a lot of beginners make this mistake. Like when your names are too long, it's better to use an horizontal bar chart, and I'll show you how that works. Another thing I will, so let's even try that. Let's try that. So instead of this clustered column chart, I'll use a clustered bar chart. Now you can see, you can read all the names. Like I don't have to bend too much to be able to read all the names. Another thing you will notice, because of the plenty names, I have to probably be scrolling down. And sometimes this is not even a good way to represent data, because people are interested in, like, you know, high level information. People are interested in what? High level information. So what we're going to do is we want to display just our top 10 cities by category. So the top 10 cities by sales rather. So we want to display just the top 10 cities by sales. So we want to see the top 10 cities that are generating the most revenue for us. So how are we going to do that? Remember when I was walking you through the filters pane, I said on the filters pane you can do, like, you can filter your data to whatever you want to see. So what we're going to do is on your filters pane over here, right? You would see city. Click on the drop down and it's going to show you filter type. And by default, there are three filter types: your advanced filtering, basic filtering, and top N. Now what we want to do is top 10, right? So we're going to pick top N, and then we're going to just go ahead. On this place, it's going to show items. What items do you want to show? Top what? So I want to see top 10. So I'll type 10, the number 10. So if you want to see top 5, you can type 5 here. Any number you want to see, you can type it there. And then what do we want to do? By which value? By my sales. So I will come to where I have my sales here. I will drag it and I will drop it on this field. You can see nothing has happened yet unless you click on what? Apply filter. And automatically, if I scroll all the way here, you would see that the only thing I can see on here is 10 visuals. For example, if I come here and I change it to, instead of top 10, and I change it to 5, and I do apply filter, you can see I'm only seeing 5 visuals here. That is how to actually format your visuals. Okay, let's go on. Now, I hope everybody understands how to, so we are going to rename this one now, we'll now call it what? So I'll go to my general title and I'll call this top 5, because I'm visualizing 5 this time around. Top 5 cities by sales. What if we want to see the bottom 5 cities? Can we do that as well? Very possible. So what am I going to do? I'll just follow the same format. Let's just do a copy and paste. Control C and Control V. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to, this time around, what do we want to see? Bottom 5, right? Still on your filter. Now what you can do is you can either clear the filter and start afresh, or click on the drop down. Now you see this place that says show item top. Instead of top, click on the drop down and select bottom. You can see nothing has still happened unless you click what? Apply filter. Whenever you try to visualize, I'm seeing some comments on this and I'm trying to address those comments. Whenever you try to visualize or you try to click on the drop down on Power Query and Power BI tells you limit of 1000 value reach, it can only show you 1000 values on your drop down when you're trying to click on that drop down. Power BI can only display 1000. So when it tells you that limit of 1000 values reach, also because you have clicked on your you're only saying Power BI should visualize, not on the entire data set on 1000 as well. All right, let's continue. Now, if you look here, you can see we are seeing 0k, 0. It doesn't make sense. What are we going to do? Go to your visualization. You want to go back to where your data labels, because these data labels we want to format. So we'll go to data labels and we'll just go to where we have what? Value. We'll scroll down again and go to what? Display units. And then what are we going to do? We're just going to change it to none. So we can see the exact figure. And then I don't want this 214. I just want maybe 2 decimal places. So I'll change this to 2 decimal places. By the way, you can change how you want your this. If you want it inside or outside, or by default, I always just like to leave it auto, right? So you can see this place that says options, the position. So if I do inside end, it moves everything inside this thing. If you say outside end, it will move everything outside. If you say inside center, it will bring it to the center. If you say inside base, it will move it to the end here. And so however you want to format it, it formats your visual, your data labels that way. So now, because we are showing bottom cities, it doesn't make sense to show it from highest to lowest, right? Because now let me tell you something. So another thing that I should mention: whenever you are visualizing data, categorical data like this, always make sure you are displaying from highest to lowest, because people want to see the highest first. But when you are dealing with ordinal data, what do I mean by ordinal data? Data that follows like a particular this thing, like for example, day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, a particular order, right? You want to leave that as it is. You are not doing highest to lowest. So if you're visualizing that kind of data, or probably age group, for example, you want to show 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20. You don't want to scatter it from highest to lowest. So a data that follows a particular order, you can leave that as it is. But when you're visualizing data like this, categorical data like this, you want to make sure you're visualizing from highest to lowest. Okay, so we're going to do a 5 minutes break, and then when we come back, I would wrap up, like I'll continue the explanation from here. So let's take a 5 minutes break. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope we all have time to take water. So somebody said they cannot add the 2016 data. You can add it, it's there. You will not be able to see it when you click. Just once you've added that data in your folder, just refresh. It's there. You'll find it there. Okay, come to your Power BI desktop and check here if it's there. That's where you'll be able to see it. So now we're talking about bottom 5 cities by sales, right? So I have to change the title of this one. So I'll go to my formats. I hope we have been following since the start of the class, and you already know how to do this. So I'll go to title and I'll change this to bottom 5 cities by sales. So the key number for today is 95, and the attendance form has already been pinned on this thing. The key number is 95. I would advise everybody should pay attention. Some of you just come to sign attendance and leave, and it doesn't even make any sense. It really does not. Like some persons that even feel day 3 and 4. Anyways, if you are that person, just so that I've deleted it out. So if you think it's not being monitored, like it's actually being monitored. So what we're going to do now is, because we are doing bottom 5 cities by sales, it only makes sense that we are sorting this from the lowest to the highest, right? Do you understand what I mean? Because we're trying to see the bottom, so you want to see which one is the lowest first. So in this case, what I'm going to do, how do you sort this? So you come to these 3 dots on that visual. You see these 3 dots that says more options. Click on it. Once you click on it, you see sort axis. You want to make sure that what you are sorting your axis by is sum of sales, okay? And then instead of sorting descending, sort ascending, okay? Are we clear? Are we following? So now that we've been able to look at bar charts and we understand how bar charts actually work, I will allow us to look at one last chart before we go to data analysis expression, right? Or maybe not the last chart, but I just want us to, let's just look at another chart that is different from what we're looking. Please pay attention. I can see a lot of messages, but let's try make sure that we're paying attention. So let's use a line chart. Now I explained that line chart is used for doing what? For showing time series analysis. So whenever you want to display anything like your months, your year, you would use a line chart. So I've selected a line chart. It is this one here. There's line, there's area chart, anyone, right? Can be used to show time series analysis. This is your line chart here. The next thing we're going to do is I want to see my sales across the month. So I would go to sales, click on it, and maybe I want to see the order dates. Let's use order dates this time around. So I will click on order dates. Okay. Now there's something that's happening here, and that's because you will not on your own, you might see an hierarchy here now, right? But because I've already turned off my auto hierarchy, I will show you what that looks like. That's why I can't even filter by month, and that is why DAX is important. So we're getting to that point, because you can see this, I cannot even take out any information from it. It just looks like really clustered, and like I cannot really see that particular trend. But you know, we can still make do with this for now. When we look at DAX, we would improve on this particular one. But one way, instead of showing year, I can easily go and show like months. How do I make sure I have that data hierarchy? If I go to file and I go to my options and settings and I go to options, you should know how to get here by now because I mentioned it a lot of times. And I go to my data load. And I check this box where it says time intelligence, auto date and time, and I click on OK. You can see automatically there's a date icon that appears here, right? Now if I click on this place, instead of this other date, I can go ahead and click on the drop down of the date hierarchy and pick months. So I can visualize only months, and you can see this one now is clear to see a trend. Hold on, I'm trying to see if I can reduce so that we can see my entire screen. Good. And this one, I can go ahead, and most times the essence of your line chart is to see the trend. Clearly on this chart, you can see that there's a from January to from February to March, there was like an increase, right, in sales. There was a dip in April, up until like it was steady up until the peak in September again, and there was a decline in October, another peak in November, and just steady all through to December. Right now, something we'll do here to just to apply the same formatting, but this time around, what am I going to do? I'll take out this label, and I'll leave every other thing. And I will take out my grid lines as well because I want it to be clean. So your format, right? Remember, x-axis, what are we going to turn off there? Title. I don't want to see the title. I'll go to my y-axis. What do I want to turn off there? I want to turn off what? Value, my title. I'll turn it off there. I'll go to my general and I will rename the title instead of total sales by month. Maybe I can call this instead of sum of sales by month, maybe monthly sales trend. To sort ascending, for those that don't know how to sort ascending, click on that visual. You see 3 dots. Okay, you see sort axis. You make sure that what is selected is sum of sales. You can see sum of sales as is checked. If it is on sort descending, come and change it to sort ascending, and that way it has changed. As simple as that, right? Now this my monthly sales trend, I can go ahead and also change my fonts. Remember, we're using Shego UI, so I'll change it from DIN to Shego UI, and I'll click on enter. And I would also go ahead and put that border that we have across all the other ones so that it's just uniform. Because I don't want these grid lines, I would go ahead to my visual. Okay, under visual, you would see grid lines. Look at it here. So this one is horizontal, so I'll just turn the horizontal grid lines off, and I've taken that out, and this is clear as day. Okay, now let's look at one other chart. We're going to look at one other chart, but before that, I want us to do something, and I want to show you something. Say, for example, you are visualizing data and probably you've expanded. You want to see all your visuals at a glance. Okay, go to your view tab. Under view tab, you will see what we call page view. Under this page view, you can fit to page. It will show you how your report or how your visual looks like on your page, or you can do what? Fit to width, and it will show you how this looks like on your report. Okay, now in this case, what I want to do is I want to add somebody looking at this. Can somebody tell me what's missing? If this was a report that you have built now, what do you think is missing on here? What do you think is missing on here if this was a report that you have built? Okay, I'm going to repeat the line charts because it looks like a lot of people that don't understand this. So I'm going to repeat the line charts. So we selected line chart, right? And this was here, right? And then what did we do? We just selected, because a date in your own, you might see it this, but me, I like to turn that default for all my data sets because I build what I call a date table, and I will show you how to do that when we start learning DAX, right? So, and I'll tell you why that one is better than what you are seeing here. And then we can go ahead and select. So this is how your order date is, right? You click on it, you see date hierarchy. You click on the drop down for date hierarchy, you see all this year, quarter, month, date. So I can pick on month. And by the way, this month is showing the months for all the whole years, right? So it's not for one particular year. And then I can go ahead and select what my sales, and it's going to show me what my total sales by month. And then I can go do this same formatting. Like I mentioned, In fact, we forgot to change this. So I'm going to change this to show as thousands instead of millions, because I'm seeing 0.1. It might not be very clear. And let me try to zoom in again. Because I'm seeing 0.1, 0.00. So if I go, you can decide to put data labels, right? But you know why I don't put data labels? Most times my line charts are for just like, let me just be able to see that trend. I would rather leave, I would just leave this than leave, because most times you just want to see, okay, okay, in February there was a peak, or in this there was this, or that's what you want to see most times, right? Not exactly the same figure. If you notice, if you over around it, you can add two tips that would show you, there are two tips showing the exact figure, right? But most times, because you don't want to, because when you start adding all those plenty numbers, it becomes cluttered. That's why sometimes I don't like to add data label on my line chart, right? But there's no rule saying that you can't. But if you are trying to follow visualization principles to make your visuals less cluttered, it's best not to, so most times. So what I'm going to do on here is, first of all, let me change my x-axis. I want the values to show as thousands. So where I have this, where I have values, okay, it's under my y-axis. I was clicking on x-axis. So where I have this display unit, sometimes when you can't see this thing, the best thing is to come and search. If you know what you're looking for, just search for it and it comes out. So where I have this, I'm going to change it to thousands, right? So it shows as thousands. And then I would go ahead and go to my general. I'll rename this to what? Monthly sales trend. And change the fonts to Shego UI. And then what do? I want to take off all these labels that I have here. So for my y-axis, I'll take out the labels. Same thing for my x-axis. So the title labels. Good. Now I have my line chart. And one last thing, the grid line has to go. So I'll go to where I have grid lines and I'm going to turn that off. I'm already seeing a lot of answer to my question. And title, there's no dashboard title, right? So there's no dashboard title. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on create a title. So first of all, let me go to view tab so we can see. I'll just do fit to page so we can see it. So we can create a title for this thing, right? I mean, before I do the title, I forgot the border. So let me add that as well. So we just follow the same convention. So before we go to the title, I want you to look at something, and it's very important. When you are visualizing, you want to make sure that you have the same amount of space between them. Why it's very important, because somebody can, just this tiny space you are seeing can cause problem in your report in terms of like when people are looking. I want to make sure that all these cards, they are of the same size. These cards that you're looking at, they have the same size. So how do you make sure it's uniform? So because this one is the largest, and I feel because of the space, I would select this one first, select this, and select this, because I want to use the same. Or something I can do is I'll select this one first and look at the properties. So I'll go to general. So I've selected total profits, go to general, and I'll look at the properties. So the height is 137, width is 280. I will apply that across all this. So what am I going to do? Hold my control key, select this, and select this. And then I want to make sure that everything is 137, 280. Which has happened here. So something I will do now is I will drag this here, so that there's this space, because it's not there's not enough space. So I would select all of them again, and I'll do one last thing. I'll go to my format. Okay, where you have format, click align, and then what you want to do is select this distribute horizontally, and automatically it's going to make sure that you have the same space across them. And I feel like the space is still very much. So something I can do is I'll select all 4 of them again, and I'll just come to this general properties, and I would increase the width size. Okay, better. So I'll just leave it at maybe 290. You also want to make sure all this one under are aligned to what you have here. So something I would do the same thing, right? This one is somewhat the largest, or I'll do this first. What I have here is what? If I go to my properties, general and properties, right? 225, 380. I'm beginning to touch on report design a bit, but no, we are not going in depth because this is not a standard report, in my opinion. It's just, learn about data visualization and what it looks like. And then what you are going to do is, I'm going to, okay, I have 225, 380. So when you're selecting, they always have to be of the same size. Good. So I'll do the same thing that I did on top and just go to format, right? So we'll go to format, align visual, and distribute horizontally so that we have the same spaces in between them. Okay? Spaces on top. Distribute horizontally. Good. And then for the last one, I'm just going to adjust and make sure, using the red line, that all of them are on the same page. Good. This is way better. Format, align. This time around, instead of distribute horizontally, because I'm trying to do for these 3, I'll do distribute vertically. And that way, there's the same space under here, the same space under here as well. Now we can go ahead and do the title that we wanted to do. So to add titles to your dashboard, that is where some of these elements that I spoke about came, right? That is where the elements that I spoke about. So what we're going to do is we would insert, okay, insert text box, and then I'm going to go ahead and just drag this text box. So when you go to your insert, you see text box, select it, and I'm just going to drag this and place it on top of here. And then I can call this, maybe let's just call it a sales dashboard. So we'll just say, so I will just come here and maybe increase the fonts. So maybe I want to make my font 28. I think this is better. And I'll call this a sales dashboard or sample sales dashboard or anything. Sales dashboard. And I can drag this all the way to this place. And if I want, I can also put that border on here. Right? I can also put that border on here. But I would show, like, don't worry, I won't start doing report design. You'll see something different. One last thing we can do on this place is, imagine we want to make this report interactive, right? We want to make this report interactive. Maybe I can make it also bold so that it's more pronounced. Yeah, better. So I want to make this report interactive. What do I do? Let's say maybe I want such a scenario whereby my user can filter by month and year, and also other things. Remember what I said when when I was walking you through the slides? We talked about slicers. Those are the things you use to filter your reports. Those are the things that you use to filter your reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on what? Slicer. So this is my slicer visual here. I can come here and click on, because I want to visualize by month. So if I select my month, it would show me a list of all my months, but I don't want to see it like this. I want probably a drop down. So I'll go to my format, okay, where I have this slicer settings. Instead of vertical list, I will change it from vertical list to drop down. Then I can also rename the title. So maybe I don't want it to be this like this, because you can see the font size is different, right, from our regular font. So if I go to where I have this slicer header, I can click on what? I can change it from the font from DIN to Shego UI. Now, if I come here and click on the drop down, I'll see all this. So if I click January, it's going to show me only information for January. If I click February, it's showing me only February. March, it's showing me only March. Okay. So I can go ahead and close this, and I'll just drag this like this, and put it somewhere here. Yeah, I want to. Better. So I'm going to also put that border. Remember our border sign? I'll just put that there. Okay. Now I'll do something else where let's do for year. So I can just do Control C and V. Instead of months, I'll change this from month to year. So this way I can click on the drop down and click 2014 to see 2014, 2015, 2016, whichever one I want to see. Okay. Then the next thing we are going to do is we're going to add another, you can add another slicer here, right? Let's look at maybe another type of this. Let's say I want to see the different ship mode. For example, if I click on a slicer, or I duplicate this, Control C and V, and I remove this other date, but this time around, I want to do ship mode. Now, instead of drop down, maybe I don't want to see drop down for this. I want to see it in a different format. I can go to my format visual. Okay. I'll go to slicer settings and maybe show it as a tile, right? And I'll just drag this all the way to the end. Make sure everything is showing. So this way, we've been able to just build a sample. We've been able to build like a sample visualization. This is just to allow you understand how visualizations work. So nothing too extra. In fact, it's even safe to say you have built your first dashboard like this, right? So as you can see, it's as like more, everything in Power BI is more like a drag, drop, click. That's what you are doing on here, right? No, you're not doing anything like, trying to do pivot table before you arrange your chart and things like that. Do we understand data? In fact, if you understand today's class, it is safe to say you understand data visualization. There's still a lot of things that we have to talk about, but we'll talk about them when we are doing report design. And this is where we'll start talking about bookmarks, drill through, tool tips, and all of all those things, right? That is what I'm trying to be very, like, I see a lot of comments, people saying, let's go to DAX. How do we create data table? I've mentioned that we'll look at all these things. We're trying to, I get that some of us are experts. And I've mentioned this thing, that it's okay for you to just watch recordings. So you can skip to where you want to listen to. But there are a lot of beginners on this call. And I'm trying to carry everybody along. So please, let's be patient. And because of the feedback that I've gotten, I'm trying to look at the comments to be able to see these questions so that I can answer almost immediately and everybody is carried along. But if there are people screaming, let's go to DAX, let's do date table, it's distracting. Okay, please, I'm pleading with you guys. Do we all understand data visualization now? I hope everybody understands and we can move to data analysis expression right now. Okay, good. So what we're going to do is we're still going to be making use of this data. That's what we're going to do to learn our adapt. So I'll click on an extra page. But what I'm going to do, remember, I'm a fan of walking you through the theory before we do practical. So it's time for us to, everybody that's been screaming DAX. I hope that because, and let me mention something before we go into this class. DAX is one of the controversial class I always teach. And because of how technical DAX is, it's very difficult for a lot of people to grasp almost immediately. But if you practice, the more practice you do at DAX, the more you get better at it. So I just wanted to put this disclaimer out there so that we all understand what we are doing. All right, so let's go to DAX. I'm going to share my slides now, and then I'm just going to walk you through the experts. Oh, for the count of customers, I didn't even notice that. I'm just looking at it. Where is it? Oh, okay, yeah. So this should be total customers instead of quantity sold. I mean, you can change that on your own. So at least you understand how. So maybe we call it unique customers. Unique customers. Okay, good. So let's go to DAX. Are we together? Do we need a moment before we enter this one? Do we need a moment? If you are ready to start DAX, just leave a thumbs up and you can leave a comment or anything. So let me know if we need a moment to maybe breathe from from whatever we have done on this thing. Okay, you know what? Let's give 5 minutes. So by 13:35 my time, we'll come back and start DAX. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Please just confirm if you can hear me with a reaction. I want to be sure that everybody can hear me. Okay, good. We're back. So before we continue, I want to say something, yeah. And this is because take it from somebody who is a lifelong learner. Like I like to learn everything, even something that I've learned before. Now, sometimes when you are learning, or when you join a particular class or you're learning something, there are some things that you think you know that when by the time you join, I mean, I've gotten a lot of feedbacks like that, even from this class. By the time you start talking, you just realize that, oh, you did not even know that this is how it's done, or there was something like this. So I would like to implore all of us to please, let's just be patient, listen, and follow through, right? There's always something new to learn, and there are different direction to things. Now that I've mentioned that, let's move to DAX. Some people would like to say almighty DAX, but then in this DAX class, what are we going to be covering? We are going to be covering um introduction to DAX in Power BI. So I'll tell you what exactly DAX is, and DAX is the short form of what? Data analysis expression. I'll show you some use cases of that. We're going to be very practical. Remember, practical and hands-on, but we'll first do our theoretical part. I'll tell you what calculated columns and measures are. We'll look at what context is in Power BI. You need to understand what context is. And then we'll look at some example of some functions in Power BI. We'll not be able to look at all the functions, but I would walk you through some of the most popular functions that you'll be using in your day-to-day as a data analyst or a Power BI developer. All right, what exactly is DAX? So DAX simply stands for what? Data analysis expression, just like I mentioned earlier on, right? It is a formula language that is used in Power BI. Now, remember, I like to be very, basic and bring you to things that, like, think of DAX as that engine that allows you to write calculations. There are sometimes when you as a business owner, you as a person, you have already finished calculating or collating your data and everything, but there are some new informations that you want to get. For example, you have your cost price and you have your selling price. You need to calculate profit, and you're in Power BI. How do you do that? DAX allows you to actually write that, right? DAX would enable you to write that seamlessly. And when we talk about that, it includes, like, functions, operators, and values to perform advanced calculations. So you are performing advanced calculations in Power BI. In fact, you can liken DAX to, what you know as formulas in Excel. Just think of that as DAX in Power BI, but it is much more powerful. What do you use DAX for? Three things. In fact, four things, but I don't have the fourth one listed here. But three things. Calculated columns. I would explain what this in our next slide. Calculated tables, measures, and there's something called row level security. You can use DAX to actually do that. I'll explain all this in this, but just to mention, RLS, which is row level security, is just a situation or a process of where you in, like, let's think of an organization where you have different departments and you create reports, but you don't want sales departments to see HR department information. You don't want HR to see IT department information. You can use RLX to actually program your visuals like that, and that helps you do this. Now, what are calculated columns? Let's go to calculated columns. Calculated columns allows you to add new information to your data set that is not present in your data. Remember the scenario I gave you. You have a column that contains your cost price, the cost price of your product. You have another column that contains, like, the selling price, how much you sold that product. Now you want to create another column that contains what the profit you've made from that product. That is what calculated column helps you do. It allows you to add information that was not in your original data set. It helps you add that, and it can be very useful if you want to expand your existing data set without editing the source data. What does this mean? I've brought in data into Power BI and I want to add some new things to that data, not my original data set. So you don't want to, that Excel file that you have, that Excel file you want to add something to. You want to leave that original one. You want to add something to the file you have brought in Power BI, because whatever changes you make there will not change your source data, right? Now, and your calculated columns evaluate at a row level context. I will explain what this means when we go to our next slide. So, because it is adding new columns to your table, what this just simply means is that it is going row by row by row to perform that calculation. I'll show you this when we go to Power BI as usual. And unlike your Excel, that is for those that are familiar with Excel, where you can reference individual cells, your Power BI references columns and tables. I would also show you this when we go to Power BI, but I want you to be knowing all this. So when I say some things, you just know that you have heard it before, okay? And it's also important to note that when you create calculated columns, it can increase the size of your data model. What this means is that your data model is increasing, performance would also be slower. That is why experts advise to create measures instead of calculated columns. That if you can reduce the number of calculated columns you create, is better. So if you need to create a calculated column, it's best to do that in your Power Query. And that is why I even taught you some of those aggregations, simple aggregation that you should know in Power Query. Let's move to the next thing, measures. Measures actually allow you to create complex calculations. Now think of it as, I'm going to even give you like a real world example difference, because most of the popular question I've gotten is, when do I use calculated columns? When do I use measures? But think of your measures as it enables you to create complex calculations that can be used on your data. So you want to perform aggregations, for example, you would use this thing. Let me give you a very scenario. Fine, you have that column that contains all the sales that you've made. You want to see the total sales. You would do what? Aggregate all the sales you've made for that day. That is a measure. That is a measure, right? And unlike calculated columns, where you can see, because for calculated columns, you will see the data that you created on a new column. Measures are not stored in the table. You can only see your measures when you put it on a visualization. Okay? When you put it on a visualization, and your measures is calculated based on a filter context. What does this mean? It filters a particular section of your data, e.g., your column, to return the results. Remember, calculated column does what? It does row context. Measures does filter context. This is a popular interview question. What is the difference between calculated column and measures? One of your answer can be, calculated column is stored in the table, measure is not stored in the table. Calculated column is what? It applies based on a row context, measures filter context. Simple, right? Let's continue. Now that you know what measures are, let's talk about something that is important, because you would ask me this question. So let me even tell you before you ask me the question. There are two different kinds of measures: your implicit measure and your explicit measure. Okay? Now, implicit measure is that measure that is created automatically by Power BI when you drag a column from your fields pane to the values field. What does this mean? Remember when we did our total sales, what did we do? We just clicked on or checked that box for sales, and it did what? It did that calculation. That is an example of implicit measure. Now, you see that measure that you create by yourself by writing DAX formula, that is an example of an explicit measure. Now, implicit measure is easy to use. It's easy. You can see how easy it was, right? But it has limited functionality, because for your explicit measure, it is much more flexible and dynamic, because you can reference it in other DAX calculations, and I will show you when we start doing our practicals. That is the difference between your implicit measure and explicit measure. So simply put, implicit measure is the measure that Power BI creates for you. Explicit is the one that you create by yourself by writing DAX. As simple as ABC. Let's look at functions. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of functions, and we will not be able to look at all of them, but I will show you the most popular ones. So I will try to touch on maybe even all the function categories if time permits us. But think of functions as predefined formulas. So they have been programmed and put there, right? That would help you perform this calculation. So there are already predefined formulas that Power BI has already programmed into the system. All you just need to do is call that function and it performs that calculation for you. And there are different function categories. We have the aggregation, date and time functions. You have your logical functions. There's text functions, financial functions, statistics. There's a lot of functions that Power BI will produce. And what I've done here is to link. I'll copy this and drop and I will share this link, this particular link. You can check the Microsoft of me. I'll share this via mail. So you can check this site. It will show you all the DAX that Power BI actually makes available to you. Okay, we show you all the DAX that this. If you just browse DAX function reference, it will take you to this particular site. You will see everything, all the functions, right? So let's talk about context now. Remember what I said, right? It is very important. It's an important concept in your DAX. So what context helps you do is it shows you how these calculations are performed, right? It tells you how the results of the formula change to reflect the selected data. And I said you have your row context and your filter context. And your calculated column is where the row context apply. Where I said what, it would go what, row by row to perform that transformation or that aggregation. While your filter context will do what, is where your measures apply, because set of filters have been applied before that calculation is carried out. Okay, now let's go into practical now. It's time to practicalize what we've just spoken about. Let's go to our this thing. But before that, I want to show you something. Remember, what data do I have in my folder? I have only what? 2014, 15, 16, right? Let me add 2017. So I'll copy this 2017. Okay, for those that would say, how does he get this thing? That I would I come and start doing cleaning, modeling, and all those things again? So let's add 2017. I've added 2017, right? Now, what do I have in my data? 1.56 million. Remember, if you look at your year, you only have 2014, 2015, and 2016. We just added 2014. What do you need to do? Go to your home tab, and what are you going to do? Just click on refresh. I'm going to wait for that to refresh. I just want to show you how how it has automated the whole process. Imagine if you had to build 2016, 2014, you come and build 2015, this, you build 20, like it's a lot of work. Or maybe you are collecting this data weekly, you build this week old, you build next week old, you build, it's a lot of, it's just a lot of work. So I'm just going to wait for that to refresh. Please, the attendance link is going. I'm sure some people have accessed it. It's probably your network. Maybe use a different browser. There's really nothing I can do about the attendance form not reachable. If it's, I'm sure it's going for some people. If it's going for you, please indicate that it's going for you. So I know it's not everybody that's facing that issue. Okay, I think this is taking time because the data is quite a lot. Okay, it's moving now. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. By now, I'll just even assume that everybody on this call has liked this particular video, this particular live, and is also subscribed to the YouTube channel. And if this is your first time joining, there are a lot of other videos from the beginning, from the basics that you can follow through, and you'll give you an overview of all the things that we have learned in the period of this particular boot camp. And also, I would like to give a big shout out and appreciation to everybody who has been talking about what they've been learning on social media. See, I'm a big advocate of building in public, because that was how I was able to make a thing out of this career, or the benefits or what it did for me in my career is a lot. So I'm a big and huge fan of people that have been building in public. I've been seeing your post on LinkedIn. I've been seeing your post on Twitter and everything. Unfortunately, I can't really react to the LinkedIn thing for confidential reasons, actually. But honestly, it is beautiful to see, and I really appreciate that you are learning something from the bootcamp. So thank you to every one of you who has been talking about their learning journey and some of the things that they've learned in this bootcamp. By the way, I would probably announce that at the end, but just to put it in that there's going to be like free slots. Some persons are going to be winning free slots to the Power BI incubator program that is happening, where you get, an access to get like domain knowledge of some of the most popular industries, hiring data, and so you get to build a portfolio. So I would later on, by the end of the boot camp, I would announce how I'm going to be selecting that winner, because I want to be sure that I'm selecting the right people. All right, let's continue. You can see now, instead of 1.56 million, I now have 2.3 million. So that data has automatically been updated. You can see I have 2017 now. I did not come and start visualizing again. Or if I had 2018 there, that is what it will still do, as long as my data is in the same format. Do you understand? As simple as ABC. That is how you can sort of like, automate that. If you publish this now, there's a way to do, and you even set like refresh schedules on your report, and it gets automatically refreshed. There's no need to do cleaning. Nothing like cleaning. Everything gets automated, just like I mentioned. All the cleaning, as long as you have cleaned your data before, all the cleaning you've done, all the modeling, everything gets automatically applied to it. All right, let's continue. So we want to look at start practicalizing DAX, okay? So we want to start looking at DAX, and we'll start from the very simple thing and the very basic, so that people are not nobody is like, we're not pursuing anybody. So we'll start from what we call aggregation functions. I'll start from what I call aggregation functions, and think of aggregation functions as those things that just help you answer. I'm trying to look for a real life example. I mean, it's DAX, it's calculation, but okay, yeah. Think of things that help you answer how much, how many, like what's the total of something. That is what aggregation functions sort of would do, right? Now, let's start with the most popular one, which is your sum. Now, let's say, for example, we want to see, like, on here, we calculated our total sales, right? Let's say we want to see the total sales in our data, right? But now we want to write DAX to actually calculate it, okay? We want to actually calculate it. I hope we are following. Are we together? I want to be sure that we are on the same page. Yeah, like before I continue, I want to be sure that we are all on the same page. Before I continue, please, if you are on the same page, let's just put continue in the comments. This thing. Okay, good. Let's continue. Elizabeth, please, if you can hear me, just put the attendance. Let me pin it. Okay, I've seen it. So I'll just pin this attendance form, because it's like people are saying it's not going. So I want to pin your message. So let it be the pinned one. Good. Okay, good. So let's continue. All right. The first, we want to see the total sales in our data now. So what we're going to do is we're going to write DAX to do it. And before we get there, I'll tell you some of the things I like to do when I want to start writing DAX in Power BI, right? So I'm working on a project or anything, and I want to start. And I'll tell you why. I'll create what I call a measures table. So we're going to do two things first. We'll create a measures table. And for those that have been shouting, let's create a dates table, we are also going to look at how to create a date table now. So those are the two things I want us to do first before we even, start looking at total sales and whatnot. Why am I creating a measure table, if you ask me? It's because sometimes you might have 20, 50 columns. And if you create a measure in any of those places, you might get missing. When you're looking for your measure, you start searching, you don't know where it is. So it's important to have like a dedicated measures table. So how do you do that? Go to this place that says enter data, right? Click on it. Once you click on this enter data, you can rename this table and call it measures. So I'll put underscore in front because Power BI does not collect this measures as a keyword. So I'll put underscore in front of my measures and I'll just click on load. So that's what I'm calling my table. I'm just calling my table measure. You can call your table anything you want to call it, right? I'm just calling my own measures. So this measures table will house everything I want to do here, but we'll come back to it. Let's go to create a date table. To create your date table, you do that here on your table view. There are several ways to creating a table. One popular way is using doing it in Power Query Editor, right? But you can also create your date table here on your using DAX. And so I want to show you how to use DAX to create your date table. Most of these things is just to understand the basics. If you understand it, right? If you understand it, it's easier to prompt ChatGPT to say, I want to do this thing. How do I do? And it will give you the code. But if you don't understand it, if ChatGPT cook beans for you, by that I mean if it gives you rubbish, you would think it's like you will not know because you don't even understand it, right? So somebody is asking, the way Power BI is able to detect and append new data for a new year, does that apply to data that has relationship between each other? Yes, our data has relationship between each other. So it actually appends that, okay? So let's go to our table view now and create this thing. Yes, first timers can fill attendance. So let's go. The attendance sheet is not opening. Please use a different internet or open it on a different page. So let's go ahead to our table view. Now, what do I want to create? A new, remember I said you can use DAX to create new tables, and that is what we want to look at. So if I go to my table tools, please let's pay attention. Pay attention, because I don't think I will have this thing to go back. Go to your table tools, okay? Click on new table. Right now, when you're writing DAX in Power BI, you see this line here. This is what we call the formula bar. And anytime you try to write a new DAX, it opens up and you have to type your this thing. And unlike Excel, where you just use equals to, yeah, you have to name your DAX, give your DAX a name. And in this case, I want to call this my date. Let me call it calendar table. Let me call it calendar table. So this is my calendar table. Let me just say calendar instead of calendar table. So this is, I will just call it calendar. Okay. And there are several ways to create a date table. You can either use what we call your calendar function or your calendar auto function. Like I said, you can go through the DAX function reference later. You see what all these things does. And we'll look at both of them and I'll tell you the difference between both of them. Let's look at calendar first of all. Excuse me. So we're going to look at calendar first of all now. Now your calendar function, right? It creates a single column of dates from the start date you specify to the end date you specify. Let me explain. So if I click on, once you start writing a function, Power BI has this intelligence capability to show you or help you complete what you're writing. And if I look down here, you see this is the calendar I'm trying to write, right? So I'll just click on calendar. Okay. So once I click on this calendar, it's going to show me what? Start date and end date, right? And it's telling you what calendar does. It returns a table with one column of all dates between the start date and end date. So with calendar, you can specify the start date of your calendar table to the end date of your calendar table. So calendar table is the same thing as dates table. Okay. So now one thing I like about DAX in Power BI or Power BI is the fact that when you start writing that DAX, it's going to show you, like, once it's on this blue sign, it means you are still writing your start date. Okay, that is what it means. Let's look at an example. For example, now let's look at one example. And for you to be able to write dates, you have to use what we call the dates function. So if I put dates, yeah, and I what is dates going to take? It's going to take year, month, and day, right? What does date do? It returns the specified date in date time format. So what I want to do is, let's say, for example, I want to use maybe from 2015. I want my data to start from my table to start from 2015. I will indicate what's the first thing it says I should put here. Year, Abby. So I'll write 2015. Once I click on comma, you see it moves to months, right? So I can put 1, right? That's to signify the month 1 as January. And you see, once I put comma, it goes to day. The blue goes to day, and I'll put 1. And then what do I need to do next? Close the bracket. And once I close that bracket, it's showing me, I have my calendar back, showing me that, oh, I'm still writing my start date, but I've written my start date, right? So what am I going to do? I'll click on comma. And once I click on comma, what does it go? It goes to end date. So I have to write end date now, right? So I'll do the same thing. I'll call my date function that returns my this number in the specified or in the specified date time format. And then what will I write? Maybe I want to put 2017, and I want to put 12, and I want to put 31 as the day, and I will close the brackets. And what's the last thing? I will close the brackets, and I'll click on enter. And automatically, what do we do? It generates the dates from the 1st of 2015 to, if I click on this drop down and I do sort descending, you will see what you see is 31st of 2017. So it has done what? Created a date for me from the start date that I specified to the end date. Now, but you know the problem with this calendar function? It is not dynamic, because by the time you add a new date, maybe you have one date in your data that starts from 2002, this will not cover it. Or they have another data that is 2018, it will not detect it. So you want to use something that is dynamic, and that is where your calendar auto function comes. So I will clear this, and instead of calendar, I'm going to use calendar auto. What does calendar auto does? It returns a table with one column of dates calculated from the model automatically. What does this mean? What this means is that it will go through all your tables and search for all the dates columns you have, and it will pick the oldest dates and the latest dates and return a table in that range. I don't know if this makes any sense, or if you are getting me. If you understand, just let me know that you actually understand what I'm talking about. Okay? Let me know that you understand what I'm talking about, right? I know somebody might even be asking, like, why do we even need to create this date table? We'll get there. So now what are we going to do? We'll close this and we'll click on enter. So what this has done is it has looked through my entire table, and it has created like a date from maybe the IS is 2014. The latest, it will start from the first day of the first month of that latest date, and the last date of the last month in that. So even if my data is maybe my data ends in March 2017, it would return till December of that year, which is 2017. Please, any questions? Are we clear on this? Can we continue? Do we understand? If you have more than 2 dates, what it does is it goes through, I said it again, I said it earlier on, it goes through your entire date table, picks the oldest dates. So even if the oldest is on this one and the latest is on the second column, on the second date, it will pick oldest, and so it starts through all the dates in your data and pick the oldest dates and the latest dates. Okay, that is what it does. You can use min and max function for your calendar table instead for your, if you're using a calendar function as well, you can use that if you want to make it dynamic, right? But because I don't want to start talking about min and max function here when I'm still talking about this thing, when I'm still talking about date table. Please, I hope we are all clear and we can proceed. Now, this is we've been able to create like our date table, but it does not end there. Now, somebody will ask, why do we create date table? Why? Now, if you, in the long run, you will need to, if you want to make your reports very interesting and rich, you would perform what we call time intelligence calculation. And this is what somebody was asking then last quarter, previous month, month over month. I'm sure you must have heard all these things. For you to be able to carry out that kind of calculations or analysis or build those kind of reports, you need a date table. And that is why we are creating this date table. Also, sometimes you want to turn off, because when Power BI brings in this data, that's why I have my data hierarchy turned off. It creates little models that impacts the performance of your report. So you want to turn that off and use just one centralized date table. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I would click on this column now, go to my table tools, and I want to tell Power BI that this table that you're seeing here, this is what you should know as my date table. So I'll come here and do what? Mark. You see under table tools, you see mark as date table, mark as date table. And it will bring up this pop-up, and I will just do what? I will turn this on, okay? Choose the column, which is my dates column, and I will click on save. And automatically it's going to mark this as my date table. So something I'm going to do, because I want to turn off all these hierarchies that I have here. So I'll go to my file, options and settings, options, because I don't want to see these hierarchies again. I'll go to my data load, and I'll just uncheck this box and click on OK. You can say I no longer have that hierarchy thingy going on here. Now we have created dates at date table, but we still need other information. We're going to be doing analysis by year. We're going to do by month. We're going to do by quarter. How do we get all these things out? Now, to do that, what we're going to be doing is adding new column. I said you can use DAX to add new column, right? So let's see that in action. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on what? New column. You can see new column here. So click on new column, and automatically it will open up that formula bar again. And what do you need to do? You have to give it a title. So this one I'll call YEAR, year, equals to so somebody says they don't understand calendar auto. Calendar auto looks through your entire data and just picks. It doesn't need to take any, it doesn't take anything. So just type the function, close the bracket. It picks the latest date and the oldest and the latest date. As simple as that. If you don't understand, like I said, we're on YouTube, you can rewind. That's why it's even YouTube. You can rewind and just play it back. Just that you'll be lagging behind in the class, but it's still the same thing, right? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we have named this year. What are we going to do? We want to actually do what? We want to extract the year from this date. So what we're going to use is what we call the year function. So if I start typing here, you can see it has come out, right? What does it do? It returns the year of a date as a 4-digit integer. So what we're basically saying is look through this column, return the year in this new column. So what does it take? It takes dates, and this is the dates that we're going to put. So I'll put my calendar date. I'll just scroll up to where I have my dates. Remember when I said your DAX references tables and columns, right? Now this thing you have here that is in this what do I call this? Inside this quotation, single quotes, is the table. Calendar. What do we call the name of our table? Calendar table. Look at it here. Calendar table, right? What is the name of our column? Date. So our column is what? In the square bracket. So this is table, and so it references what? Table and column, and this is what we'll need, right? So I will click on it, and I will just close the bracket, and I will click on enter. What has happened? It has gone through and extracted, and this is what I mean by your calculated column does row context. So it has looked through this row, 2014, yeah, 2014, return it, 2014, like row by row by row, and it will return the value that is supposed to be in the new column. Okay, now how do you know that this is a calculated column? I want us to pay attention to here. To know that this is a calculated column, you will see you see something that looks like a summation sign under here, right? So something that looks like a summation sign under here. And then what are you going to see? This is what makes you know that it's a calculated column. You can see there's nothing like that here. This one, you see there's something that looks like calculator on this table icon here. That is what shows you that this is a calculated table. So you know that this was not there. It was calculated here on Power BI. That is how you know this is a calculated table and this is a calculated column. Okay? Now let's continue. Please, any questions before I proceed? Any questions? I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Some people are saying, somebody's saying he's currently having issues with time intelligence calculations. I've not talked about time intelligence calculations. Please, are we together? Do we understand? If you have a question, if you don't see, don't just tell me I don't understand. Tell me what you don't understand. It makes it easy for me to explain. So if you don't understand, don't say, oh, I don't understand this part. I don't understand this part. Go over again. Where exactly should I go over again? Should I start from creating calendar a date table? We don't have time on our hands. That's something that we should all know. Okay, I'm going to delete this and let's take it one more time. I'll just explain it one more time so we understand. But the best thing will be to rewind, but let's do that. So what are we creating? We want to create a date table. And what did I say? We'll create a date table in the table view. We'll go to your table view here to create your your date table. And why do we need to create a date table? We are going to be doing time intelligence calculation in the long run, and you need your date table to be able to perform these calculations seamlessly. To be able to calculate this, perform this calculation seamlessly. And there are several methods to create your date table, but the most recommended is using Calendar Auto, because Calendar Auto will do what? Will pick the latest and the oldest dates. What does this mean? If you have, for example, I have order date and I have ship dates in this column. So it will look through all the dates table I have in my data and it will pick the oldest dates. For example, if March 15, 2025, 2015 is the oldest date, it will start from 1st of January 2015. And if maybe the April 2016 is the last date, it will go to December 20. So it will start from January 2015 to December 2016 and create a table for me out of it. So how do I do that? I'll go ahead and do what? New table. Okay, new table. And then what am I going to do? I'll call this my calendar. Calendar equals to what? I will call the function, which is what? My calendar auto function. And what does calendar auto function do? Like I mentioned, I already explained it. And you don't need to put anything in. Just close it and click on enter. And it's going to create what? A table with all the dates, right? A range of dates. I hope this is clear now. You understand how to create the date table. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do what? Mark this as a date table. So click on the dates column, go to your table tools and do what? Mark as date table. And it's going to bring up this pop-up where you turn it on and you do what? Choose a column, dates, and do what? Save. You already have dates in the data set. Good. Why are we creating date table? I mentioned you cannot use that date in your date table to create time intelligence calculation. I've already given why we need to create a date table. Like some questions are just so I feel like some questions are repetitive. That is, I explained why we need to create a date table. Yes, if I add 2018 to the folder, the calendar auto will update. So are we together now? Are we all on the same page now? I'm so sorry, you guys. I know it's very difficult because even me, I'm sure I did not get DAX on the first try. And that's why I mentioned that you will not get it on the first try. You have to practice and practice. So please, feel free, drop your questions and all. We'll try to do it. By the way, the dates that it is generating, it will generate all the dates from, like what it's doing is, it will do 1st January 2014, 2nd January 2014, 3rd January, like it's creating all the days from 2014 to 2017. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Are we together? Yes, if you have a date table created from you can use that. So you can just copy the formula and keep reusing. Now, I would share, after this class, I would share a date table I use for all my reports. So I have a PBIX file, I have a date table stored in a Power Query editor. In fact, don't worry, I'll talk about it tomorrow when we're doing our put it all together project. So let's not move this thing. Do we understand? Can we proceed? Please just drop proceed in the chat. Let me know if we can proceed. Okay, we are together. So let's continue. The next thing we want to do, because we'll do analysis by year, we'll do analysis by month, we'll do analysis by quarter. Right? We want to get all this information, and that is what we're going to try to do. So what are we going to do? We are adding a new column. And to add a new column, what do you click on? New column. And then when you click on new column, what are you going to do? You're going to come here, because you have to give your column a name. And I want to call this my year column. So I'll say year equals to, okay? Year equals to, and the next thing I want to do is, let me even mention something with I, and that is why most trainings you attend to, they don't touch on these things, because nobody wants to take their time to start explaining all these things. People just use probably what is inside there and go ahead, right? But like I said, no gatekeeping over here. We're going to go through everything, okay? So let's go. Does every analysis need a date table? Very valid conversation. As long as you are going to be doing time intelligence calculations, or you want to show your analysis over a period of time, you would create you need a date table. But if you don't have dates in your analysis or your data, there's no need for a date table. You don't need a date table. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is year. And I said the year, you will take what? The year function. I'm going to click on the year. And then what are you going to extract? It takes your dates, right? So which is calendar and dates, this dates column. So if I start typing maybe calendar, which is the table name, or I start typing dates and I scroll all the way up, I would see my calendar dates here, right? And I will click on, and I already mentioned what this thing is. The calendar in the quotation is your table name, the dates in the square brackets is your column name, right? I mentioned it when we're doing theory that your DAX references what? Tables and columns. So I'll click on this and I'll do what? Click on enter. We've not even started though. All this one we are doing is preamble. Hopefully we'll be able to do something reasonable. I laugh in 2 weekends. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new column, right? We want to add months now. We've seen how we have our year on this particular place, right? Let's do months. The most important thing is that everybody gets what we're trying to do here. So to do that, we'll click on a new column again. And then what are we going to do? We're going to write month. I'll call it month equals to, we want to extract month. I will use the month function as well to do this. And then what am I going to call? That my date column. So if I scroll up, I will see it. So anytime in case you write date and you're not seeing it, just scroll up. Because sometimes it likes to show only the function. So just scroll up, you see your calendar dates and you click on it. And then what? I'll just do this. But you see what's going on. Month is extracting what? Your date in the month number format. So for January, we'll show you 1. For February, we'll show you 2. But that's not what I want to see. I also want to see the month name, right? Because I want to be seeing that January, February, and March. Okay? We want to be seeing that January, February, and March. So what are we going to do? We're going to do what? New column. And this one, I will call it, instead of this thing, I'll call it month name. Okay? And then what am I going to do for this month name? I will call a function called format. What does the format function do? Somebody might ask me that, why do I know all this function? It takes months and years of practice, right? That's why I say sometimes all these things, you won't know it at once. You won't be able to remember all this thing. Know what you want to achieve. And that's why I'm taking my time to explain the basics. Just know, at least you know that, what you want to do is you want to create a date table. I'll even show you. If I go to ChatGPT now, all these things we are writing, just one prompt, it will give me. All I have to come and do is copy and paste. But if I don't understand it, I will not know that that is what I need to do, or that is what I want to do. Okay? So what does format function does? It converts a value to text in the specified number format. And what is the value that I want to convert? I want to convert my dates. So if I scroll up, I'll select my dates. If I put comma, what is it telling me? Format. And what is the format? I want to format as a month in text. And what to signify that, we use this quotation mark, that's the double quote, and we specify it as month M 4 times. So just type month, that's M 4 times. So you can type this M 4 times, close the brackets, okay? And then what are we going to do? Close these brackets and click on enter. Automatically, you can see what has gone. It has created the month's name. You can see I'm seeing January, or 1 is now January. If I click on this drop down, you see it's January up to December. Now, let's say I want the short form of this. Something I can do is I'll copy this month name that I've written here. I will do new column again, okay? And I'll just paste that one here, that formula that I copied. But instead of month name, I'll call this one month name short. And instead of 4M, because I want to see just the 3 letters, I will remove 1M here. And I will click on enter. It's going to give me all the 3 values. So January will represent JN, FEB, MAR, like that. That is how to get your month name. I will do one last thing, and then we'll go into creating measures. I'll do one last thing, and we'll go into creating measures, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's find quarter now. How do we get quarter? So I can do new column, okay? And if I do quarter, because I want to see my quarter formatted as as Q1 or quarter 1, I would use the format too. So instead of just doing 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to do format. So I'm using that format function. I will use my dates, which is my dates column, okay? And comma. Remember, we now choose our format. What format do we want to see? We want to see the format as quarter. So this time we are going to be using Q. And what will you do is you use Q, then we use a forward slash, a forward slash Q, and I will put this, and I will just close this bracket. Oops, I put it the other way wrong, the other way around. So it's supposed to be forward slash Q and then Q. So we now have quarter 1. So basically, this forward slash that I'm putting before the Q, just put this. So anything I put before the forward after the forward slash will show here. So if I put QTR and I do like this, it will show quarter 1. If I put it in full, like maybe if I write the quarter in full, like I say QAUTER. What does spell? So QAUR, and I do this. So it's going to show it in full. So anything I write in front of that this thing, but I'm just going to leave it as Q1. So this is how you write or you get the quarter. Are we together? Okay. So now we have successfully created a date table. Now down to the main business. Like I said before, I do preamble. Like this one is starting, like stepping, like when you are just settling in. Now let's go into the main thing. Like I said, what you use DAX to create, like there are several functions, right? And I said we're going to start with aggregation functions. Now that you understand how to create your date table, let's look at how to create our first measure. What did I say we use DAX for doing? Creating measure, calculated column, and tables. We've looked at how to create tables. Let's look at how to create measures. Now I want to find out my total sales. We did something here where we just did drag and drop. Who can tell me what the name of that measure is that we did here? What's the name of the measure? I talked about 2 measures. So this measure now, this total sales that we have here, what's the name of the measure? What's the name of that measure? Okay, there's a question here that says, what if the first quarter starts in the month of October and want to start first Q in October? There's actually a way, implicit measure. Thank you very much. There's actually a way to do that. Now, but something you need to understand is by default, that assumes calendar year starts in, or Q1 starts in January. So there are so many businesses that their fiscal year does not start in January. So there's actually a way to actually do that, right? So there's a logic to, you know, adjust your month number where you're doing this. You are maybe minusing that particular number from there's just a way to do it, right? There's a way to write the DAT function, but it's not in the how do I put this? It's not in the scope of this class now. But you know, when you have something, that's why I say I understand the basics, because when you go to that ChatGPT, it can give you a function that you can use to actually write write it. And most times when you are doing this things, if you want to create a fiscal year column too, right? For example, your Q1 might be maybe from your fiscal year might start from 2024, right? Like depending on the distance. So you want to specify that like it's 15th, like probably it's October 2024 to October 2025. Those kind of things. Like that's your full year. I hope that answers your question. If you want to create day column, it's the same thing. Just new column, and you will see it's there day. Maybe we should, you know, let's continue because there's still a lot, but we don't have enough time. We have like less than 30 minutes today. I mean, if you will leave me, I'll teach till like 7 o'clock, but then let's continue. So what we're going to do is create our first measure, right? We want to find out the total sales now using explicit measure, right? The one we write by ourselves. To do that, what you are going to do is either go to your measures table, make sure you're on your measures table, right click and do new measure, or on here you will see table tools, you can do new measure. So I'll just come here and click the new measure, and it will open up that formula bar, right? And what do I want to calculate? My total sales. So I'll call this total sales equals to how do you calculate total sales? Total sales is the addition, right, of all your sales. So in the function we use here in Power BI is sum, the sum function. So if I write SUM, it brings out the sum function. And what does it tell you? Sum adds all the numbers in a column. And what does it take? A column name. So you already know what you're going to put here, a column name. And the column name that I want to put is what? This is our sales, right? I already mentioned this one is the table name. This one is the column name. So we'll click on this thing. So this is our sales column. And I'll just click on enter and I'll click on close. This button here, this icon here is what makes you know that this is a measure. Remember I said this one here, summation sign, and this thing makes you know that this is a calculated column. This one that looks like a calculator makes you know it is a measure, right? And something we are going to do, we can either delete this column 1 or hide it. So in my case, I'll just do hide. And automatically these measures will change to a calculator. This table is no longer in this icon, it's showing as a calculator. That's why you know it's a measures table. That is how you know it's a measures table. So how do we know that we have done the right thing? Let's even drag this total sales and put it on a card visual. You can see 2.30 million. What do we have here? 2.30 million. So is it the same thing or it's not the same thing? It's the same thing, but we've just used DAX to calculate this. You will begin later on when we start writing a lot of DAX, you begin to see why it's important to calculate like this. Because I know if I go to the comments, and one question I will see is, why do I need to calculate it like this when I already have it calculated in the other way? Now, the next thing we're going to do right now is we're going to add a we're going to create, let's say, okay, we have done total sales, right? Let's do the same thing for total profit. Or you know what? That's your own assignment. Don't use it to practice. Calculate total profit. I'm sure you know how to do it. Let's do unique customers. If I mean, I don't mind doing it, by the way, so we can just use it to practice again in case you didn't understand the first thing I did. Let me delete this. And what are we doing? Let's go to new measure. Remember, new measure. Then what am I calculating? Total profits equals to what? Sum of my profits, right? Sum of profits. I'll click on enter. What if I want to see the unique IDs that people have placed, or the unique, like the total orders, the total orders that people have ordered for? I can do new measure again, and this time around that will be the count of what my order ID. So what am I going to do? I'll say total orders equals to what? Count of my order ID, because I'm taking it from, if I'm taking it from my sales order ID, I will do distinct counts. But because I'm taking it from this table, I'm doing a count because I don't have duplicates in that table. And it will give me the total orders. If we check the profit, let's even check the profit to be sure that we've done the correct thing. What are we seeing? 286. That is what we are seeing here. 286. But we've just used DAX to create it. We can do the same thing for customers, right? We want to find unique customers. So just like how we calculated, if I do total customers, or unique customers rather, can be counts of customers in my customer ID in my customer table. Let's use our sales table so that we'll learn distinct count. So distinct, if I do, okay, we'll do both. I'll do both so that you see that it's the same thing. So unique customers, let me do another new measure that says total customers. So I'll say count and then I'm going to say what? I would say I'm going to say distinct count rather. Distinct counts. And I'm going to say order ID. Oh, sorry, customer ID in my sales table. And if I bring this here, and I bring the unique customers too, we can see the same thing, right? So they both give you the same thing. Please, are we following? Are we together? Can we continue? Okay, let's continue. So the next thing we're going to try to do over here is, since we've looked at counts, we've looked at sum, let's look at another aggregation. This thing we're going to look at min and max, right? Let's look at minimum order and maximum order. Like, let's say we want to look at the smallest order and the largest order, the minimum, like the smallest amount we've made in sales and the largest amount we've made in sale, or the first order date and the last order date. We can use min and max to do that. How do I do that? I'll do new measure again. Remember, all these things we are doing are aggregated. Like, it's aggregation. They are operating based on the filter content. When we say give me total sales, what did he do? He went to my sales column, aggregated that particular column, and returned the results, right? But when I said give me year, what did he do? He went row by row to give me the year column. So what I'm going to do now is I'll do my total. Let's do we want to do use this. So let's say I want to find my smallest order. So I can do min of my sales. So minimum value of my sales. And this will give me the smallest amounts that I've made, right? In terms of sales. Next thing, we can do the maximum order. If we try to check that, let's even see that, so that we know whether it's correct and it's calculating the right thing. So if I go to my fact table, which is this sales, and I come here and I do, so you can see it's 0.44. That's the smallest order, right? So we've been able to use the minimum function to calculate it. So let's do maximum function too, right? If we do new, I want to see the largest order. right? I want to see the you can use the max function. So I do largest order, and I would say I'll call my max function. What does my max function do? It says it returns the largest numeric value, right? Between two scalar expressions. So the larger value, that's what it just returned. So I will do what? Call my sales again, because that's what it takes. And I'll click on enter. Are we together? Ah, God. People are not patient. Somebody is telling me to calculate top end countries. Like people have never understood the debate. People are still struggling to even understand the sum. And we want to get to top end. It's a step by step process. If I tell you that I'm done with DAX, then you cannot tell me that can we calculate top end. But I want us to, there's a reason why there's the basic. There's a reason why you need to learn 1, 2, 3 before you start learning 1 + 1. And that is what we're trying to do over here. I want to just be sure that everywhere, because right now as I'm teaching this thing, I'm feeling like a lot of people. I want to be sure that we're all on the same page before I continue. That's it. I don't want to bombard. This is not a class. I'm so angry with the complete data visualization, because this is a class you start on a fresh brain or fresh mind, so that your brain is still very hot and it's not when you're very tired, because I'm sure a lot of people are already tired. So let's do this, okay? Let's we've been able to look at what? Sum. We've looked at count. We've looked at distinct counts. We've also looked at mean and max. Somebody can say, can we do this on dates? You can actually find the minimum dates, the minimum sales dates, or the minimum order dates, and the maximum order date. That's the first minimum sales. There will be the first order date. Maximum will be the last order date. Okay, that's this thing. So let's move to another category of function, which is your mathematical and statistical functions, right? And on one example of that is your divide, right? One example of that is your divide. So we're going to look at how to actually use divide. Now, there's a in your Power BI, you can easily do this column by this column, and it will divide it. For example, I've calculated total profits here. Good. So if I do, we're still writing measures. So want to concentrate on measures. We'll go to calculated columns very soon. I'll show you some other functions. So now I want to let's say I want to calculate the profit margin. I think somebody asked this question during our Q&A, right? Profit margin. And profit margin is just a way to help a business know the amount of profits they are making, like in percentage. The amount of profits that they are making in percentage, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to calculate profit. And to calculate profit margin, your profit margin is simply your total profits divided by total sales multiplied by 100. So what we're going to do is I'll call this one profit margin. And what am I going to do? I'm going to say what? I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the comments, and some of them are hilarious. And the reason why, not to, please, people should not be harsh on it. I don't want there to I don't want a lot of noise in the comment. The reason why I'm saying that let's try to take from basic before this, because I cannot be doing time intelligence calculation and trying to show you here, and somebody will tell me that how did you get that total sales? So we have to do total sales before we do some other things. So please, you should not get me wrong. You should not get me wrong. Okay, let's continue. So I said you can easily just say what, do total sales, like call my totals, and this is where, good, this is the power of your explicit measure. Now I can just say total sales divided by what? Total profits. And I'm calling it, I'm not writing sum of sales here. I'm not writing because I've already calculated it. You can see how I'm calling measures here, and I click on enter. Fine, this is going to divide well, right? But what if we want to take, like, maybe a scenario where it's a number that is not divisible, right? I want to make sure that it pictures that. How do we do that? So what we're going to use is the divide function. So we're going to use divide. Okay, we use divide, and what are we going to call? We'll call our numerator first, right? Look at what the divide, save divide functions with abilities to handle divide by zero case. Remember in mathematics, if you divide a number by zero, what happens? It tell you infinity, right? So you want to be able to figure for this case when you start dividing really large numbers. Okay, really large numbers. By the way, some of these DAX fund, like for example, the last month, last week, or this comparison year over year, I have videos on my YouTube channel that teaches all these things. Like if you watch that Power BI project marathon, this thing, we did all of that. This top end calculation, if you watch that video, you will see it there. I have videos that are already on my channel that addresses some of these things already. So let's go back to divide. Divide takes numerator, denominator, right? And what is our numerator in this case? Our numerator is our total profits, because that's what we're dividing by, sales. Then we'll put what? Comma. The blue moves to here. I like this blue very well because it makes you know that you're not cooking beans, you're not doing any mistake. So what are you going to do? Total, the next one is what? Our total sales. And then what? I'll close the bracket. Now, some people will put times 100 here, but I like to use my percentage sign instead of using times 100. Because if I do times 100, I'll not be able to apply that percentage sign, but we'll do that multiplication again for me. So I'll just click on enter. How am I seeing different results? Is it total profit I did last time? Wait, let me be sure. I think I did the wrong thing. I did sales divided by profits the last time. That's why it gave me this because profit margin is profits divided by sales. I'm not wrong. I know that. Created it so many times. Okay, yes. Oh, I did a mistake. It's supposed to be total profits divided by total sales. Sorry, please, in case you watch it before. It's total profits divided by total sales. That's profit margin. My mistake. You can see when I was writing divide, I wrote this correctly. So total profits, I was probably carried away. So it's total profits, right? Which is our numerator. Click on comma, then total sales. And then you do close your brackets. And then what are you going to do? You can come ahead and put that percentage sign here. And automatically, this is your profit margin because it is expressed as a percentage. Also, another very interesting calculation you might want to try, price per unit, which is division of your sales divided by quantity, right? So price per unit. So these are some of the things you can use your division for. Now, for case where probably you want to undo zero, what you can do is in this place, if you put another comma, you see alternate results. So you're saying if it's not divisible, return zero. For example, I can put zero and you just click on OK. So that's something that you can do. I'm just teaching you that part. So we don't have a scenario. We don't have a scenario in this place yet. Now, there are cases where you want to, another function like your rounding. Let's use, like you want to round a number. Like for example, I want to put round this particular value. I can do a new measure. Maybe I want to round it to 1 decimal places instead of 2 now. That will call maybe let me call it profit margin rounded. So some of these things we learned in Power Query, you can do them in this thing too. I can call my round function, which is this, and put my profit margin. And then instead of rounding it up by 2, maybe I put 1 and I close this. And if I bring this one as a chart to this place, and I put my percentage, let me see. There's actually a problem. Okay, so it works for this one. Remove the percentage. don't know, I see putting the percentage. Dax is daxing. Anyways, I'll come back to that. So you probably don't need to even use that. I just wanted to touch on that. So now that we've looked at some aggregation functions, let's go to some of the other popular functions that you'll probably be using too, which is your filter and table functions. But no, I think we have 15 minutes left. I don't know if we'll be able to cover that. I don't know if we'll be able to cover that. And I don't want to. Let's take Q&A. Let's take Q&A and then we can wrap up. So I'll let your brain breathe and I'll give you 15 minutes back. So please, let's take Q&A. Let's take Q&A. All right. I also wanted to use this few minutes that we have left to share something. I don't think I have that open up here. Okay, I don't think I have that open up here. So but I'm just going to talk about it. So we just have like an idea. I'm starting a portfolio incubator program. It's going to be happening next month. It's starting, I think, on the 13th. I'm trying to confirm the date. I think starting on the 13th of September. If you are interested in that, Elizabeth will leave the link, or will drop a link to the training. Yeah. So what the incubator program is about is, if you are somebody that you are looking to build your skill sets in Power BI, and when I mean build your skill sets in Power BI, I'm talking in terms of projects. So we are not learning Power BI in this, like it's not a come and learn Power BI. So what it is it's a building. Like I'm simulating the real world experience. Like in the real world, what happens? You are given data sets and you're asked to analyze, or you're given a business problem and you are asked to solve that problem. That is what we are doing in the portfolio incubator program. And this is going to run for 1 month. And we are not just building this in, there's going to be a SQL class, because you have to understand SQL if you want to use if you want to be a pro at Power BI, if you want to use Power BI, like when you're working with very large data sets. So there will be a SQL class that will take you through the just similar to what I've just done with Power BI here, right? A basic introductory class of SQL to help you understand SQL very well, from beginner to like intermediate, right? Understand it and how to use it with your Power BI. And then we're going to be building like projects. So some of the things that you're going to be seeing in this thing is there's going to be a closed community, and where you're going to learn like you have people that will be, you know, answering your questions, people that you're learning together, people that you can network together, right? We're going to have that closed community there where you can learn, where you can get all these things. But the basic important thing is that domain knowledge that I spoke about, you're going to get, like we're working on projects that touch on some of the most popular industries that are actually hiring data, they're actually hiring data analysts. So that is something that you should or just have that at the back of your mind. And this is going to be starting next month, right? You are going to get feedback on your projects. You're going to learn how to add these projects on your resume. And there's also going to be a free project documentation template that will come with the training. We're also considering creating like a one-page portfolio website where you can host all of your projects on. right? There's no instrumental payments at the moment. So what I'll just advise is maybe you can create like a dedicated savings. When the money is complete, you just pay at once. And the class is going to be weekends. We want to do weekends only because we're going to make it 3 days, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we're doing weekend only, and it's going to be for 2 hours per day, right? And it's a lifetime. You have like a lifetime mentorship because basically that group is going to be there. When you have Power BI challenges, data analysis challenge, you always drop it. You would always drop it on there, and there are people to help you. So it's more like a a lifetime closed community, right? A lifetime closed community about the the group. So it's going to just be for 2 hours, and trust me, it's not going to be as chaotic as what we are doing here right now, because everybody's going to be carried along. You just learn how to build. Basically, think of it as you learning to build, basically. So I'm going to see if I have questions, and I'll take some of the questions. The data set is in the resources. I think maybe Elizabeth, you can share the drive resources again. What again? What again? I'm trying to see. Check the Power BI project marathon. You see the video on top end, but I mean, you'd have to check, like you'd have to fast forward where we started writing DAX. But the Power BI project marathon is where we did a top end. So the class actually cost 80K, but currently there's a discount on it that is 50K in Naira. I mean, you can check the other currency equivalent. I think, I can't remember how much it is in dollars currently now. But please just, you can click, Elizabeth, please just share the link to the class. You can share the link to the class, so anybody who is interested can listen. I'm only collecting 100 people. That's to show you that it's not, because I want to pay, like I want to pay attention, and I don't just want to teach. I'm sure by now you must have known how passionate I am when it comes to like really teaching people. So I want to pay attention to everybody, and that is why I'm not collecting more than 100. For the one-on-one, there's also a one-on-one package that comes with this one. We are specially curating together. So there's going to be like a one-on-one session with me. You tell me the industry you are most interested in. We curate your projects around those industries, and basically it's almost going to be like a personal thing, and there's almost like a sort of like a close mentorship with myself. But for that one, I have only 4 slots, just 4, because I'm trying to also, like I mentioned before, I do a 9 to 5, so I'm actually very busy, but I only have 4 slots for that particular one. So if you're interested in it, I just have only 4 slots. Remember, it's starting on the 13th of September, so there's not a lot of time, but I'm just taking 100 people for this thing. And for the 50% discount that's on there, once we get up to 50 people, it replaces to the it becomes late bed. So once the first 50 people get the discount that's on the 80K, it returns. But I think now it's going for 50K or thereabouts. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I'll share more details on this thing on Slack. But tomorrow we're going to continue the class. Okay, tomorrow we're going to continue the class. And okay, I think Elizabeth has dropped the link already. Let me pin it, so please, you can fill the attendance. Tomorrow we're going to continue the class. We're going to try to finish this, and there's something I wanted to walk us through, but I'm not going to teach. I'll still show you guys tomorrow again, but I wanted to just show you what we're going to do. So we're simulating real life. I want to go, I think I've shared this because one of the feedback I got, people want to see the slides before class, so I've shared that too. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at how to build a dashboard tomorrow. We're going to continue our DAX class, so after that we'll look at how to build this dashboard. Building up, we built one, right? But how do you make it? How do we do interesting things to simulate? So this is what we're going to look at tomorrow. We're going to look at this by tomorrow. All right. What else do I want to mention? I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Anyways, but we'll continue the class tomorrow. It has been really interesting teaching you guys. I've had fun, trust me. Like, it's important because I'm teaching myself too, because it's helping me, retain all this knowledge. And I really, really appreciate all the comments, feedback. Please, if you have feedback, anything you want to say to me, even if you want to insult me, please just use that feedback form to drop it there. Like anything at all that you want to say to me, please. Yes, the upgraded class is for beginners. I don't even want to call it upgraded class because it's not really upgraded class. It's just a portfolio class. This thing we are doing here is the full package. What we are doing on this live is the full package. I've not eaten one thing. And that's why I said we are going to build a project. So I'm here with you. I'm building one because I cannot. But something you should also know is we have the project club. In our project club, we will be doing one project. What we'll do is we try to simulate some of these data challenges ongoing. We pick them up and we try to build projects on those that every month. So we'll continue doing that. We'll be doing those project work to just teaching you like sort of how to approach those projects. Maybe we'll not build completely, but you know how you can do it, how you can start and things like that. That's what we'll be doing in the project. So it's still there, lifetime. You can listen. I see a lot of people dropping their dashboards in the feedback group. The reason why we've not dropped any comments yet is because we don't want to leave people out, right? I'm trying to, because we have a lot of beginners. I want the feeling to be with everybody. I know you have learned Power BI, you have built Power BI, because well, by the time you even learn from this class and when we start talking about report design, you'll be able to go back to that your report and even work better on it and make it even really better. So we're going to be giving feedbacks there to your project. Well, you have that, right? But this is sort of like what the portfolio incubator is, like a closed group, right? That as where we are building, like is basically for you to help you build that portfolio. Fine, you've learned Power BI. How do you actually apply for, or tell people that you've learned Power BI, or you can do their gigs, right? You can show them your portfolio to say, these are the projects that I've done on Power BI. Basically, that is what the program is all about. But you still have the community. So it's not like an upgraded class. Don't see it as upgraded. Everything you want is here. What the portfolio incubator program is, we are building portfolio, is the icing on the cake. Let me put it like that. So, you know, some people eat cake without icing. So, but yeah, that's what basically it is. And by the way, yes, I'm going to be giving access to, like, I'm going to be giving free slots to some people to the portfolio incubator program. I'm not going to say how now because I know what's going to happen. Because I would say how. In fact, maybe I would even, in fact, there are people that I already have in my head. I would go by tomorrow. I'm going to announce how I'm going to be doing that. Actually, I'm going to have, like, at least in that 100 slots, maybe I would give out 2 or 3 slots if I'm very risky, or maybe even 5 if I'm very excited to people. But yeah, that's what we want to do. I don't know if there will be different cohorts for it, and I'm not going to be, I'll be very honest with you. I don't know if there's going to be different cohorts yet, but this is the first time I'm doing something like this. So I'm pouring just know that I'm pouring all my heart into it. I'm actually pouring all my heart into it. But thank you very much, everybody, for, you know, sticking to. I hope the class has been worth your while. Like, I hope you have learned Power BI and you've gotten a decent. Tomorrow we meet again and we will continue. Trust me, there's still a whole lot to learn. But I mean, this thing. Somebody's asking how they join the Slack community. I would put the link on this video in the description. Maybe I will edit the description immediately after it. But thank you everyone for joining today's class, and I would see you guys tomorrow by 2 p.m. West African time. Bye everyone.